All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, I'm doing part twos to my top podcasts. So, I'm actually on number 4. And if you don't know anything, if you haven't been listening to my previous podcasts, I don't even know when I'm going to post each one of these, but I went through my analytics and I said, let me just see what are my best viewed podcast, or listened to, I should say. And I got a list here. I don't know if it's 10, it may be 8, but I want to do follow-ups to them because if that's what people are gravitating towards, I definitely want to cover that maybe more in depth or maybe take a different approach, even though it's kind of the same subject. And the fourth most popular one, which kind of was, all these kind of blew me away because you do all these podcasts, and the ones, again, you think that are going to do really well sometimes or may strike a chord, they don't work. It blows, and other ones I'm like, I'm going to do them. I want to do them, but I'm just like, will people gravitate or even understand this title? And for some reason it works. I have no idea. I don't know if it's my platform as far as my podcast provider, if they're sending it out and more people are seeing it, but it's, or social media, if they're sharing it in certain ways that I don't know about. But a very popular podcast was, when is the right time to take a risk? And I remember kind of talking about that podcast or talking about that subject because I think a lot of times we are kind of confused on when is the right time to risk anything, right? Because I think I discussed with my friends, when they were traders downtown Chicago at the Merc and the Board of Trade. And I remember, at one time they were making a lot of money, a lot of my friends, and I was making a lot of money as well. But my point being, when I would talk to them, I would say, hey, what else you going to do besides this in case this ever falls apart? And they're like, why would I leave this? I'm making too much money. I'm like, well, that's the time kind of you want to probably maybe try other things. And they're like, why would I risk that? I want to make sure I have money for this, right? Makes sense. Or just stick with this. And then the shit hits the fan after a certain amount of years. And now they start losing money, or they're not making nearly as much. Now you talk to them and say, what are you going to do? And they're like, I can't risk anything now. Look at where I'm at. Now I'm losing money, or I'm not making nearly as much money. So I do think this kind of happens to a lot of us. I'm just using that for an example. When things are going your way, a lot of times you're like, I'm just going with this. Why would I risk changing anything or doing anything else? And I understand that. But then you got to look at it too. When your back's against the wall, are you going to be able to then take a risk? Most likely not. A lot of times. You can, of course, but you may be even more scared than when you had it going on. So, in this podcast, I don't want to just talk about it like that because I think that's how I covered it before. When it comes to risk, I think to a lot of us, I just heard a thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Actually, I watch these videos like everyone else. I don't know if it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. And he talked about not having a plan B because it kind of gives you an out, and I get it, right? But sometimes, too, when it comes to, I think, hold on one second here. Let me get a glass of water. Sorry about that, my throat. But when is the right time to take a risk? In my opinion, there's no better time than to take it is at the moment you're in your life. Because I think most of us talk ourselves out of doing what we want to do. And no matter what you want to do in life, it is a risk. I don't care even if you get in your car to go drive somewhere, that is a risk. And I know what you're maybe thinking too is like, if you want to open another business, well, that's a big risk because who knows what can happen, and I could fail, my family, I can't leave my job and all that type of thing. I get it, but here's the deal. You just got to become creative. There are a lot of ways to risk things without destroying everything else. I've done both. When I want to be a filmmaker, talk about taking a risk. I never even went to film school or made films. And believe me, I did not succeed at being a filmmaker. And I risked everything for a long period of time to go after that dream. It took a toll on me, I'm not going to lie. But I wouldn't have changed anything, actually, looking back on it. I met incredible people. I got to do something in my life that I think a lot of people want to do that throughout their life regret that they never did. And I didn't do it for that reason. I just did it for selfish reasons because I like doing whatever I want to do. But it could be even, I'll just use myself for an example, writing a book. I was still working full-time and traveling, and I was able to write a couple books. I didn't have to say, I want to become an author. I'm just going to quit my job, or I'm just going to be able to, I'm going to just sit around and write for 6 months and throw the dice, and have a clear mind and not have the pressure of anything else. If you can afford to do that, God bless, but a lot of people can't. But how I became creative is I was writing when I was on the airplanes all the time. And again, I got creative. Another thing that I done that's, kind of worked, but see, I just want to take always an honest approach on this. I get too caught up sometimes doing things, and I am full throttle, and there is no stopping me. And I don't look over my shoulder at all. I just look straight ahead. And, even I have this weird thing where the more I fail, the more it keeps driving me. And a lot of people it's hard to deal with rejection. I deal with it as well. But the other thing I am going to wrap this up with, I'm trying to keep these short, with risk, is understanding with risk is rejection. It's almost like they're hand in hand. And you're just going to deal with the rejection aspect, especially at the beginning. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how much money you have. You're going to be fighting through certain things, especially if you want to do exceptional things, especially if you want to do something at an exceptional level. You have to understand that everything, again, you're doing is at a risk in life. But if you want to do something different, you're just going to have to really become, like I said earlier, creative. Don't destroy your life taking risks. And if you do, it's on you. Most likely you know what's right and wrong for you a lot of times. But just because you want to take a risk, don't stop yourself. Because again, I do think so many people want to, take a risk and go try something new or experiment. They don't do it, and they definitely regret it later in life. So I'm going to leave it at that. You got any questions or comments, you could just hit me up. I'm at richcelenza.com. I have a program, Mastering Self-Confidence, where I try to help men build their confidence and also find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. But I will officially wrap it up with this. Don't let people convince you not to take risks in your life, because a lot of them people never really know what it is to take a risk or go do something that nobody else has ever done or tried or wants to do. Don't sell yourself short. Where you are right now in life is probably not where you're going to be in 6 months, a year. Most people get a lot more, educated. And when things start going your way, you'll be shocked at the momentum and how many things you can start developing mentally or physically. All right, take care.